This is the Pure Rock Show, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a very special guest tonight, and he's on the phone with us now. His name is Keith St. John, who is the former vocalist in a later incarnation of the band Montrose, sang with a bunch of other bands we'll get into, but he's also the producer, I think I would call him, of an amazing annual tribute show to the great Ronnie Montrose called Ronnie Montrose Remembered, which this year, unbelievably, is the 10th year he's been doing it, taking place Saturday, January 24th, down in Anaheim at the Grand Theater. And welcome to the Pure Rock Show, Keith.
Mark, thank you so much for such a gracious intro, man. It's a pleasure to be here on the Pure Rock Radio Show, man, and I thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I've actually wanted to speak to you for years. I'm glad this finally worked out. Because as you'll see, I don't think Montrose gets any more play in any other station or show than mine. Just to let you know, I've been a big fan since I was a kid. All my listeners know. There's a Montrose Monday feature on the Pure Rock California Instagram site for the show where I highlight something in Montrose's career every week. And we do a recap every year of the most played bands on this show. And for 2025, Montrose came in at number 10. Not bad. With all the bands out there, right?
Man, I love that. I guess I came to the right place today. So It took all these years to get together, and we finally did it right on the 10-year anniversary of the first one of these that we've done.
It's unbelievable. I talk about them pretty often, obviously, but just for those that might not be aware, why don't you first just talk about who Ronnie Montrose was and how this tribute show began and how it's been running for over a decade now?
Sure. Well, Ronnie, as everyone knows probably by this time, he's a guitar player and a very hailed guitar player in the history of rock and roll, especially on the west end of the United States. Because that's where they originally came out of the Bay Area. So, I mean, regionally, that was a super, super hot band when they came out. And then, marginally, they charted on the East Coast and overseas as well. But I mean, the really heavy fanship, kind of from, I would say, like St. Louis and some cities in Texas to the West, of course, the Bay Area being the biggest hotspot. But, so Ronnie moved out to the Bay Area from Denver, a strapping young guitar player, and he got himself a job working for Bill Graham. Bill owned and ran the Fillmore, which was up in the Bay Area. And the Fillmore was a club very famous for having huge live acts come and play in his club, which, was not super huge, but they came and played. And by the way, not too long ago, a bunch of new archives got released because Bill filmed everything back then. And I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a few of them.
Those black and white films, I believe, right? I think I've seen them. Absolutely amazing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So Ronnie, tell me if I'm getting too detailed, but Ronnie was actually also did some carpentry work in addition to, what he was doing on guitar. I would say he was a guy borderlining on OCD, just in the fact that whatever he did, he was really a perfectionist about it. And I think especially more in his young years, from everything I've been told by the people that were around him back then. So needless to say, he was very good at kind of everything he did, and he really worked hard at it. And Bill Graham really liked him a lot, and he hired Ronnie to do some carpentry work around the Fillmore, and at the same time, Ronnie's band would occasionally open up for some of the bigger acts coming through. And they had that kind of a relationship. And Bill really liked him and really did see the talent in Ronnie. And so Ronnie's first sort of foray into the big time was when Van Morrison's wife decided she didn't want to live in New York anymore. She didn't want to be out there anymore, and that they were going to move to California. the West Coast, and the Bay Area was where they were headed. Mm-hmm. And not all of Van Moore's band was going to be able to just uproot from the East Coast and come out to California. So Van was looking for a guitar player to fill a spot, and he knew Bill Graham, and he called him up. And Ronnie was one of the people Bill had mentioned might be good for the slot. I got this really talented new guitar player, style really up your alley kind of thing. And, Ronnie had been beating around the Bay Area a little bit and was working for a few people doing some sessions and auditioning for other kind of hot acts that were up and coming. And, he told me that he knew, like, something inside him clicked. He said, honest to God, he goes, it's not like he said, I'm not really one of those kind of seance kind of hippie guys, right? But he said when he first got the call, as soon as he heard it, what it was, he like knew immediately he was going to get that gig. And he got the gig with Van Morrison, and he did a record with Van called the Tupelo Honey album, and just to give a little bit more history into it, that's a little deeper. Ted Templeman was the keyboard player at the time with Van Morrison's band, who Van Morrison actually asked to produce the record before ever even hearing anything that Ted had produced, just because he had a gut instinct and a feeling about him. Kind of, the way things worked back then were a little bit different than they work now. Yeah. So, couldn't go online and just, look at 25 clips on YouTube and check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But, so Ronnie kind of right away got into, kind of became a star at that point in a way, and especially in the industry. There wasn't that big of a pro touring, album making rock music industry yet. It was growing, but, that was like late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, Tupelo Honey, I think, came out in 71, so yeah, it's really early on there.
Right, exactly. That being said, Ronnie really liked the way Ted Templeman, the way he got sounds and, how that record wound up sounding after it was recorded and produced. And so when he finally put Montrose together later, he got Ted to produce that record. And then famously, Ted produced the first Van Halen record because the Van Halens liked the way that Montrose record sounded. So that's kind of a little backstory on where Ted came from. And like I said, Ronnie's first foray. And Ronnie didn't do Montrose yet after the Tupelo Honey record. After that, he got hired by Edgar Winter to join the Edgar Winter group. And he and Rick Derringer were the two guitar players that did They Only Come Out at Night, that record, which has, famously Free Ride and Frankenstein. And it's kind of, you would say Edgar Winter's commercial success record, right?
Definitely.
So, there were, after he did that, then his star grew a little larger. And when he decided to leave that situation and start his own band, the industry was really kind of, expectant of, what this was going to be. And I feel that, after he hooked up with Sam Hagar and they put that band together with Bill Church on bass, who I believe was in Ronnie's band Sawbuck that used to play, do some of those opening acts at the Fillmore for Bill Graham.
He was also on Tupelo Honey, the famous bass line in Wild Night he played on.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. So, yeah, much. And so, that's kind of a backstory on Ronnie, a brief one. And then I would say basically, in my view, when he split with Sammy after doing those first two Montrose records, Ronnie, I feel, just wanted to take a departure from the sound that they had together. For whatever reason, he just didn't want to be beholden to having to try to get that same sound and that same format that they were doing. So he changed it up a bit, added keyboards to the mix, and wanted to kind of do a departure from that. And then after the next couple Montrose records, he decided to take another left turn and do the band Gamma, which I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I believe they did 6 albums.
Actually, not quite that many. They did 3 originally, and then a later one, like in 2000 or something, a 4th one, Gamma 4.
I know they did, yeah, I remember when they did 4, and then someone else told me they did 6. My good buddy, drummer Troy Laquetta, actually produced the 4th one at his studio. So, but I thought they had done some more, but maybe it was just 4.
Yeah, it was 4 studio. They put out a live.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right, but
definitely the theme of his career has definitely changed, right? He never stayed in one place for more than 1 or 2 albums, right? Just pivoting between all the bands you mentioned and instrumental albums, and later on and this and that. He was always changing. It seems like not much consistency with one format.
Yeah, I'm very, very free-spirited, and I guess in a way, especially maybe in his younger years, kind of not wanting to be held down to anything. It's not. Businessmen might say, hey, you got your strengths that you already got out there and are working. You should capitalize on that. But, Ronnie was, like I said, he was a purist, and he wanted to take the guitar in whatever direction he wanted to take it in. And he's got a lot of really beloved and loyal fans, man. And there is no other Ronnie Montrose, that's for sure.
I, like you, grew up on the East Coast, so as a kid, I never heard Montrose on the radio, never heard of him at all. I think the first time I heard of him was just reading an article about, probably Sammy's history starring in a band called Montrose. And I was like, oh, what's that? Stations in New York and Philly never played him, so that's where I became a fan and, bought the first record, and, however many years ago that was, been a huge fan since. You grew up on Long Island, right? Are you originally from Long Island, New York?
Yeah, I grew up on Long Island, and I remember seeing the records, in the record store, and I always thought it was a really cool name. It just had a cool ring to it, and I was like, but as you said, that the stations really, they weren't playing them, the way they were playing them on the West Coast.
Yeah,
and when I got into the band, it was because, I was working with Ronnie, and I didn't really know anything about this man's past. He was just Ronnie, and he was introduced to us by a mutual friend. And we spent some time writing, maybe the better part of a year, writing about a records or more worth of material. We had a lot of, we had a backlog of much more than one record's worth of stuff. And I got to know the guy. I didn't know that was his history. I didn't really know that. So
two big interesting notes to me: A, that you weren't aware of him before you met him, and B, that there's that much material out there. Was that ever recorded, or you just wrote with him?
We eventually we recorded, rhythm section stuff and basic guitars and probably some scratch leads and stuff like that, and some scratch vocals. And I'll tell you what, even now, as like this RMR 2026 10-year anniversary is coming up, I get people messaging me on the social media, naming the songs, because we used to play some of them live when we started playing.
Huh.
So while we were kind of working all this stuff out, Ronnie got a call from Steve Miller's manager at the time, which was Scott Beret, and I think Scott is still Steve's manager. And he was a big fan, and he said, listen, man, if you'll stop being Mr. Stubborn, I guess, and put together a Montrose band, a new working Montrose band, man. I'd like to, he goes, I think because of the way the times are going, as you know, like, kind of like right at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, things were turning around, and all the 80s stuff that wasn't cool in the 90s and the 70s stuff, the retro stuff was coming back, so, so Ronnie was ready to finally give it a go and go out and play Bad Motor Scooter and Rock Candy again for the first time in however many billion years. And then he asked me if I wanted to do it and played me the stuff. And I was like, wow, this stuff's really cool, because Sam kind of, he had some similar influences. There was obviously a lot of Paul Rodgers and some Sam Cooke. I don't know if you recognize that. Otis Redding, Robert Plant, all like mixed into his stuff, and I was like, wow, this stuff's really cool. And as I got more familiar with it, I started just loving it more and more. And then he said, hey, Keith, I'm not an LA guy. I'm not a sort of guy about town anymore. He goes, can you get some guys, man, and we'll put a band together.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it came together. And I got Pat Torpy, who was just a monster drummer, one of my favorite drummers in the world. And, and he was immediately into it. He at the time, his band of note was Mr. Big, and they weren't busy right then. So as time went on, we had kind of a rotating cast member scene. Ronnie would always say to me, "Hey, Keith, I'm like the Chuck Berry of hard rock." He's like, everybody comes and plays in my band.
That's for sure. The first time I saw you was at B.B. King's in New York with Montrose. It was the first time I saw the Montrose band. And I believe Ellison was playing with you then on bass. I don't remember who was on drums then, but this is going a while back. So I saw you there at least once, maybe twice at B.B. King's. So
Ellison was probably playing. If Ellison was playing bass, perhaps DeGrasso was playing drums. Those guys did play together in a few years there.
That's really interesting to me that you were the one that was assembling the band around Ronnie. I had no idea that you were pretty much producing the band, huh?
Yeah. Well, I didn't bring in Ellison and DeGrasso. Those were Scotty's guys. Those were Scott Barrett's guys on one of the segments of Southern guys. But the first cavalcade of people, after Pat Torpy, it was Eric Singer on drums, and then I got Wild Mick Brown after that. And then, and then it was DeGrasso and Ellison.
And how many years did you sing for the Montrose band? Was it almost 10 years? It was quite a while, right?
Yeah, well, in all told, I call it 12 years. And, it was on and off. Ronnie had not a very long battle, but he had a battle there that was pretty dramatic for him with prostate cancer. But, he came clear of that, and he was a good-hearted man. He was a sympathetic man, and one of our friends in the Bay Area had a charity event coming up. There was a big charity event with a lot of cats playing, and Ronnie just couldn't resist. He had to come back out, and he said, "Keith, I haven't picked up a guitar in like a year. And I don't think I want to go back out and play again or anything like that, but I want to do this one-off event, for our buddy Ben Wong, who's putting this event together up in, I think it was Walnut Creek or something. There's a venue up there." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And of course, and I went up, and there came Ronnie up on stage with a ZZ Top beard, like down to his belly button. And
wow, I've never seen pictures of that. Wow.
Like kind of a backwards, one of those like taxi cab driver from New York hats, and the shades and the whole deal.
Wow. Morphing, always morphing.
I kind of just pushed him on the shoulder, and I said, "What happened to you, man?" And he goes, blah, blah, blah. And then, once he got on stage and played a little bit, and he felt it again, we were up and running again. We started booking dates immediately.
Awesome.
And
Being a Montrose fan as a kid, when there was no Montrose band, the first time I saw him, I think it was in '94 when he was doing, his instrumental tour off of the Music From Here album, which, I love all his instrumental stuff too, which was great. And then you just never know where he was going to go next.
You saw him live on that in '94?
I did. Bottom Line, the Village, New York.
Yeah, Bottom Line. Wow. You wouldn't remember if he had a keyboard player with him named Ed Roth, would you?
I'm pretty sure he did. Yep.
Okay, yeah, Ed Roth. Ed Roth has done every one of these Ronnie Montrose Remembered shows with me, and he's a another fantastic guy, like just the most straight up New York, good-hearted, like, whole deal, you know what I mean? And he was kind of Ronnie's go-to guy for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to know about anything and anybody, you call Ed, and, Ed's just so solid, and especially in Ronnie's mind, he was pretty much the source of any... If Ed had ever said to Ronnie, hey, I don't think Keith's that great. You should, maybe you should get another guy. Ronnie probably would have fired me the next second.
Yeah, a little footnote. I was just reviewing the liner notes. Ed actually appeared on that Gamma 4 album, the fourth Gamma album. He was on there with
right on.
Denny got back, and Davey on vocals, and his longtime bass player Glenn.
Now, who would have played the rest of the Gamma records on keyboards? Would that have been Alan Fitzgerald? Did he do Gamma?
Yeah, he was on one. He was always changing. Alan was on, let me double check, he was definitely on one of them. And then he got Mitchell Froome on Gamma 3, who became a huge producer. He was on Gamma 3. Let me see if he was on Gamma 2, which is my favorite album covers of the Shark in the Grass here. He switched every one. Jim Alcavar was on synthesizers on Gamma 2, so he had a different synth player in every Gamma album.
That's right.
We're getting deep in the weeds, but I love it.
For people listening, I know we're getting heavy. We're getting into the deeper kind of Ronnie solo stuff and Gamma stuff. But getting back to the story kind of in a way. So when we first came out with that first lineup that we had going, I did not realize at that point that Ronnie had not played that stuff in so long, and Scotty set up some great shows right off the bat because, he's got a lot of pull being the guy he is in the industry. And the shows we did in the Bay Area right in the beginning were just fully packed, amazing, of course, Hell's Angels all over the place, but in a good way. And, I couldn't have been in a sort of more accepted new guy spot than you could be in. A lot of times bands change singers and it's kind of like, they got their arms folded when a new guy comes out, especially back then, and it's like, okay, what's this going to be and stuff. But, it was the exact opposite. We went out, opened up with Rock the Nation, whatever, and did my thing, did my twirls and my spins, and song ended, and people started yelling, "Sammy who?"
I was going to say, you are definitely reminiscent of a young Sammy. If you ever saw the back picture on the back cover of his solo album 9 out of 10 scale, you look just like him, so I don't think it was too far of a stretch. If you ever see that, you should check it out. I was like, when I remember the first time I saw you, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm seeing a young Sammy when he was in Montrose. And you sounded very similar to him, too.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish, I've seen the footage and the filmage and stuff. I wish I could have seen those guys, man, back in that day. But I was like a zygote or something at that point.
Exactly. You and me both.
I was a gleam in an eye. But yeah, man, Sam's a badass. His singing is just badass. He's a total natural, man. Sam is the first guy who, he actually, we were standing upstairs at the Cobble Wobble, and Ronnie and I were both down there, and we were going to go out and jam together and stuff. And we sat in a circle upstairs, and literally, he poured these extra tall shots of tequila for us to do right before going on stage, which for a singer is normally not what you want to do, right?
Uh-huh.
But, it really worked. I was like, wow, this kind of was okay. I mean, this didn't, really mess me up on stage or anything. And B, I was like, okay, so this dude's not drinking water and faking it. This is he's drinking.
Yeah, and he owns the companies. I think it's safe to say he's drinking it.
He's got an iron voice, man.
I mean, he's 78 years old and still sounding great, right? It's incredible. 78 years old. Who would have thought when we were kids that he'd be doing this? Any of these guys at that age would be still doing this and sounding as good as him. I know. It's nuts.
Yeah, for me, when I go on tour, I don't drink. If we're doing day after day after day, I don't drink until the last show. Last show, I have a couple of drinks, and that's my little reward. And, then I go back to normal life and do what I do. Slam some heroin in an 8-ball.
There you go, and you can chill out to the next tour. Hey, I want to get back to the history, but let's take a little break. Let's talk about the show coming up, because I want everyone to know the amazing roster of artists you already have signed onto this, because I'm telling you, I've been to this show, just so you know, I've been there. I've been to 7 of the 9 ones that you've done so far. I missed the first one because I was still on the East Coast, and I missed last year's, but I went to every one in the middle, and they've been my favorite shows of the year every year. They're just spectacular.
Wow.
Spectacular.
So you caught Steve Stevens coming out and doing Rock the Nation. I think that was with Brad Lang and probably DeGrasso playing drums. You caught that.
I've caught, you know what? I mean, everything's in my highlights, honestly, have been Brad Gillis guitar solos and Gamma when they do the Gamma stuff. The one I was blown away for, and it might have been the first one I went to, so your second one, when you actually got the second Montrose vocalist, Bob James, there. Never in a million years did I think I'd ever see this guy. I was like, this is unbelievable. So, I mean, so many highlights. Frank Hannon was incredible. I saw him a couple times. Yeah. These shows are great. Yeah, why don't you list the artists that you have signed up for this year so everybody knows what to look forward to?
Well, so far, there's still some that aren't announced yet that are coming, and some people on the fence that can't commit yet. And that's the way this always goes, right up till basically the day before. But so far, I've got newcomer Billy Sheehan, from Big, and David Lee Roth, Dallas, and whatever. Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses, who was at the first one, and this is his second one, so he went from the first one to the 10th.
Cool.
Got Doug Aldrich from, of course, Whitesnake, Dio, and the Dead Daisies. We've got Reb Beach, also from Whitesnake, but original member of Winger. Mm-hmm. And we've got Brad Gillis, who, as you know, from Night Ranger, and another point about Brad is he was the guy that got asked to replace Randy Rhoads for Ozzy on when Randy passed away on Ozzy's tour. He had to fill those shoes, or try to the disgruntled fans. Now, there's an example of someone who didn't come into a real accepting audience. Yeah,
partly why he didn't stay after they recorded Speak of the Devil and went back to Night Ranger, but he was great on that album.
No, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. One of my buddies now, through the Ronnie Montrose Remembered, a guitar player I've gotten to know and love, Phil Demmel, who he did a good stint with Slayer, Lamb of God, a band called Violence.
Yeah, Violence.
In a band called in a band called Machine Head for a long time. That was his band. And
I believe I saw him 2 or 3 years ago. He was definitely there. I saw him. At the
these are heavy bands, but Phil grew up a heavy Gamma fan. Mm-hmm. He's all about Gamma. I mean, every time he's come, he's wanted to do a Gamma song before anything else. So he'll be there. We've got Dave Amato from REO. He's been there a couple times. Become a friend through all this stuff. We've got Stacey Blades, who did L.A. Guns for about 10 years with Phil Lewis when Tracy wasn't in it. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, yeah. The 2 different L.A. Guns were going at the same time. Competing L.A. Guns, different bands, different members.
I don't know if Tracy kept one going the whole time. I mean, I feel like...
Yeah, at one point, there was definitely 2 of them. It was Pretty interesting.
Yeah, at some point there were two of them. There might even been three. There was Riley's L.A. Guns at the same time for a minute.
That's right.
For just a minute. But, Stacy's a badass. I mean, no offense to, the glam strip scene or anything, but I didn't expect to find his level of talent in, from where he was coming from. Mm-hmm. And, I was really impressed. More than I thought I would be. And, no disrespect. That's just, I didn't expect him to be so on it, man. I mean, he came in and nailed the tunes that he played at the Montrose event he did last. So, another guy I got, it's been in a few things with me, is Blas Elias from Slaughter.
Yep.
And also Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And he did the last Burning Rain record with Doug Aldrich and I. Mm-hmm. That we did. And I also, after James Kotak passed for a little bit there, he was the next drummer in Kingdom Come after James passed. And then the band kind of imploded within like a year after that or something. So, and then he and I did Raiding the Rock Vault together for about 3.5 years in Las Vegas.
Hey, since you brought up James now, let me interject. He also played on the Montrose Mean album. Know anything about that one? Does that ever come up in the Montrose world in terms of when you were with Ronnie or doing these tributes, about ever doing a song from that great album?
No, never came up, and I had no idea. Until maybe about 4 or 5 years ago that James had any kind of a relationship with Ronnie.
Wow, that's crazy.
So weird, because James was one of the first guys I met when they dropped me down on the Sunset Strip from New York back in the day, and everything was different at that point. It was almost cool to be. If you had a little cocaine in your back pocket, you were kind of cool at that point. Before things turned dark, but yeah, no. James asked me repeatedly to try out on these different projects that he was doing with other guys, kind of that already had his kind of sort of notoriety and stuff. And I was only interested in writing my own stuff at the time and doing that kind of thing. And I, I already had a label and management behind me and all that. And, I went to his, he got married to Tommy Lee's sister, and that was a big deal in the news in town and all that. And their divorce was even bigger deal when that happened. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of drama in the press about those guys all the time. So, and then we finally did get together in a band when he called me to do Kingdom Come. Because, he parted ways with the Scorpions. I think that was around 2016 or 2017, because we started the new Kingdom Come in 2018. Mm-hmm. And his idea was, let's get all the original members back, minus Lenny, and have you sing on it, Keith. So I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. Have you called Lenny yet?
Yeah, I mean, who owns the name?
I'm like, yeah, give Lenny a call and see what. And so they called him, and Lenny said, well, I'm officially retired. I'm officially retired, and he seemed very stern on it, and he sort of had that old school German. He was in Germany too. He wasn't here in the U.S. He had old school kind of German sternness. And he was like, yeah, I'm officially retired, and I'm done playing, and that's it. So we started working up that act. We made a deal with him to use the name, and that was it. Kingdom Come was off and running.
Cool.
And back on track, man, with Get It On and What Love Can Be and Shout It Out and all those tunes, man.
You're not still, that's still not together, is it? The Kingdom Come that you're in? Or is that? No, I didn't think so. Okay.
No, James passed,
right,
tragically, a few years ago, and as I was saying earlier, I got Blas to fill in for James. I really couldn't think of anybody else that would have been able to satisfy both the bands and the fans needs at that point to step in and do it. That, just, kind of just filling it in with anybody, just, or a no-name guy or something, just felt like it would be a disservice to the band and to James and blah, blah, blah. But it was interesting to me, as many things in my life seem to always be cross-connected, and everything seems like it was not a coincidence. Like every day, all the time, that's my life. So it made total sense to me when I found out, 2 years into working with Kingdom Come, is when I found out that James not only played on the Mean record, but he co-wrote some of those songs with Ronnie. So we actually, kind of shared the same shoes, as far as, being co-writers with Ronnie on tunes. And
that is amazing. It never came up during those couple of years. It really is kind of funny that it just never came up just by accident or anything. Just, hey, yeah, it's really funny.
Well, Ronnie, he didn't mention much about the past. I mean, even when I asked him about Bob James, he'd be like, oh, well, Bob, and some people said he kind of, he was crazy in his older years, kind of went off the deep end, and no one's heard from him for years and years and years. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, like I said, I was blown away when you announced he was there. I was like, never in a million years did I think I'd see that guy. How did that come about? Did you look for him, or did he reach out to you to perform at that tribute show? How did that even happen?
I looked for him, man. I looked for him. He was hard to find.
Wow.
But I know enough people by that point in L.A. I kind of know everybody at that point, and I knew who to start asking, and eventually I got a phone number, and that was that.
Pretty obvious, but I have to ask, did you ever ask Bill or Denny or Sammy to join these tributes that you put on? I know they all did the very first tribute in San Francisco, but have you reached out to those guys?
Yeah. I only asked Bill, and the times I asked him, the years that I asked him, he couldn't do it. He wasn't either he wasn't up for it, or he just, in his schedule, he couldn't make it.
Here's a real...
And Sam, I know, he knows about him. So, I mean, if he wanted to come down, he'd just say, hey, man, I'm going to come down this year.
Especially now. He's been living in Orange County, so this would be the year. He's a local now.
I know, he is. He's right down there in Dana Point area kind of thing.
So let me ask you, Keith, any favorite Montrose songs that you enjoy playing? And I mean, you sound great on all of them, but are there any ones that you particularly enjoy? Either the Van Morrison you do or Montrose songs?
In the very first days, I really liked I Got the Fire.
Nice.
Because it was sort of like, it was in a sort of really comfortable, easy wheelhouse for me, Mm-hmm. And the song just kicked ass. And it also kind of sounded like sounded like something off the St. John demos. I had a song that sounded really similar to that. Those sort of, those 2-note partials you do on the guitar, kind of Richie Blackmore and Ronnie does those too, running up and down the squares, I had a very similar sounding tune, so that might be another reason that it just touched me in a cool way. And then
that's an amazing song. I mean, so much. Iron Maiden covered it twice. That's how good it was.
Oh yeah.
They covered "I've Got the Fire" with their first singer Paul and with Bruce. 2 different times they recorded "I Got the Fire." Iron Maiden.
Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, that was a cool one. And now that you mention it, I do remember that they covered it. Yeah. And I heard the Bruce one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool stuff, man. And then later, I just was getting into the deeper tracks, and I was starting to try to sort of hippie out on Space Station Number 5, because I had stumbled upon an old live recording from the record plant that was broadcast on some Bay Area radio station, and
I love those demos. K-San, they got him
full slow down, like just guitar and vocal, complete hippie moment, and I was like, dude, we got to do this. I mean, and of course, that was their version of kind of doing what Zeppelin did and expanding their songs, in cool ways live. And I was like, this is amazing. So, then Space Station Number 5 started to become my favorite tune of the night because, we'd play around with it and it'd be fun. And that was a cool thing about Ronnie and the players he would sort of be acceptable of playing with is, everybody listened. And that was kind of the school of music I was used to growing up with in New York. Everybody kind of listened to each other, and it wasn't paint by numbers where you went out there with your own arrangement in your head, and if somebody changed something you didn't know, you're just still I'm going to the bridge right here, and that's what's going to happen. I learned a lot more about that happening in rock and roll in playing with Ronnie and some of the musicians we had. They could, in the middle of jams and songs, I'd feel Ronnie do something, just throw something else in here on the guitar, and the drummer had the sense to, right somewhere in between the groove, to answer him, and they could talk to each other in the middle of the song. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is like what my grandpa used to do with all his, German polka buddies, in the living room.
Yeah, when you have great musicians, it's a whole nother element. It amazes me. It's amazing that you put the first Ronnie Montrose Remembered concert together, but 10 of them, you could name a lot more high-profile artists than Ronnie that don't have any tributes, yet you've been able to do this 10 times. Does that, amaze you?
It does and it doesn't. I intended it just to be a one-off. I never intended to do two. But I realized after the people were sort of hitting me up after the first one, I realized that, for some of these people who come, it had been so long since they had seen Ronnie, in the old days when we first came around with this new version of Montrose. And, they had accepted me for whatever, 10 or 12 years. And, they kind of accepted me as the guy to, be singing these songs for them. And, the fact that they can also see some of the other guys who over the years represented this music with Ronnie in those years. And, so they're kind of going to the only show that they can to see this done.
Absolutely. That's why I love it so much. Never in a million years did I think I'd be able to hear any Montrose songs, let alone the deep ones you do live. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's like if people really love that music, if they want to see a more complete show, I know, Sam will play the Montrose tunes, more and more nowadays, but, he doesn't want to go out and do a whole set of Montrose, I don't think. It's not really his thing. And rightfully so.
Yeah, he's got tons of other stuff to do, his Van Halen stuff and his solo
stuff and Van Halen
Chicken
stuff.
Foot, everything.
Want to hear it. Fans really want to hear that stuff. So this is sort of a different fan set, and there really isn't another time of year or place that I can think of that I could run something like this where there would be that many great guitar players available to come down and kind of sub in and sub out, do sort of a festival stage and get on and off stage and do all that. So, it kind of works for me. We get the opportunity, like you say, to see so many people like a guitar player like Frank Hannon who grew up around Ronnie. Frank was produced by Ronnie in the studio by the time he was 15 or 16 years old.
The testament to you to putting this together so many times, but also that all the artists want to keep coming back. Because, it's a lot of the same ones, but, they're not getting tired of this. They're still enjoying it all these times, which is just, it's amazing all around.
Well, and I've been in bands, too. Burning Rain with Doug Alders is one of them, where Alders turns around to me, we're making up the set, and he goes, why don't we open with Rock the Nation? I'm like, Yeah, it's a great killer opener, man, for our set.
Dude, Tesla does a great cover of that one, too.
The music, it grows on people. And it's, even if you don't know it, some of those songs are just really, they're meant for the live stage. They come to life when you play that stuff on stage. And it is, in a way, I hate to say it, but Zeppelin-y. It's
Oh, that totally, the first album was very Zeppelin-y. Absolutely.
It's meat and potatoes, man. It's all those songs, it's kind of, as a guitar player and a drummer, everyone's got to be on their toes.
Yeah, they have it down. I'm telling you, all the years I went, I mean, I'm not going to notice any little mistakes, which I'm sure is a little thing here and there, but overall, you'd think these guys played together all the time. Everything was always so tight, all the songs that I saw. Just out of curiosity, did you ever ask Dave Meniketti, or did he appear at the first one? I know he was at the San Francisco one, but he has a big history with Ronnie. Did you ever contact him?
I've asked Dave, and Dave doesn't show up at a lot of jams. It's not really, and I respect that.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He makes the best use of his time, putting it towards, the business of doing Y&T. And I respect that about him, man. He's got a great career, great band, great music, and another great musician. I mean, I have jammed with Dave, but it was rare, this.
He just played here in Ventura a couple months ago. Came here 2 years in a row to the Ventura Music Hall with Y&T. Still sounding incredible, incredible. I mean, to be able to see him close up at a small club these days.
I don't know if we've said anything about the time and date on this thing, but the 10-year anniversary of Ronnie Montrose Remembered is coming up on January 24th at 7:30 at the it's called the Grand Theater.
They changed the name, the Grand Theater, yes.
The Grand Theater, it's about 2 blocks away from the Anaheim Convention Center on Harbor Boulevard. Go to RonnieMontroseRemembered.com. You can find a link to the ticket page. You can go to my Instagram page, just Keith St. John, and you'll see most of the players who are coming, because I'm announcing them kind of on a daily basis. And, the players we mentioned, plus a lot more, are on there.
Awesome. You're doing my job for me. I was going to be mentioning that, but you just did it for me. So thank you, Keith. And Keith has also been kind enough to offer our listeners some couple pairs of tickets for a giveaway. So if you're interested in trying to win a pair of tickets to this awesome show, you can just email radio@capsmedia.org. That's radio@capsmedia.org. Pure Rock Show on the subject line, and that you'd like to go see Ronnie Montrose Remembered, and we'll pick some lucky winners. So thanks for that, Keith.
Cool deal, man.
Anything else you'd like to mention about the show, or about what you're doing with Burning Rain, or any other projects?
I could, but my hour is actually almost up.
Okay.
It just turned 6:57, and I've got a 7 o'clock.
Okay.
I would love to talk. Well, that's our guy setting us up, man. We have the same guy that set this up. So
well, we'll talk again then. We'll talk again about other things you have going on.
I would love to talk again. If we can make some time and talk again, I'd love to talk anytime about any of this stuff, man. But Burning Rain's another band. If you're familiar with Burning Rain, it's a band I started with Doug Aldrich, and actually during the recording of our first record was the happenstance that happened that is why I got introduced to Ronnie.
Oh, how funny.
But we can get into that next time.
That'll be part 2.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
All right, Keith, thank you so much for spending the time. I really appreciate it. It's been great seeing you, and I can't wait to see this year's show, the 10th anniversary of the tribute to the great Ronnie Montrose.
Man. Yeah, I can't wait to see you at it, man. We'll definitely hang.
Sounds awesome, Keith. Thank you so much.
All right, my brother. Have a good one, and for all you listeners of the Pure Rock Radio Show, man, Mark is the man, and let's talk more Montrose on part 2.
Let's do it. Thanks a lot, Keith. Have a good one.
Thanks, brother.
Okay,
Take care.